Hi guys, it's G. So it's time for my May wrap up. I didn't read as much as I'd like to in the month of May because I had so many deadlines. I was crazy busy. I was barely at home and my housemates were really busy. None of us really saw each other, and then we all finished and we spent some time together, and I haven't really read a lot. The first book I read in the month of May was a book I'd started quite a long time ago. Somebody picked it for me to read because I like people to pick books for me when I'm a bit of a slump, and that was Just Listen by Sarah Dessen. Now, I did a cry for help a while ago on my Tumblr saying I have no idea what I want to read, but I want some more contemporary books. I'm putting an Amazon order in, hit me up. Sarah Dessen was one of the people that came up. This was the one that I picked up first, and it's about this girl called Annabelle who's a model, and her life is seemingly perfect. Like, she's a model, she's got this really sort of nice supportive family apparently, she's got the friends, the parties, she's sort of everything that I wanted to be at this age, but everybody's got their story and hers is quite dark, and you learn her story, and she meets this guy who I can't remember what his name was, but you learn about her family, you learn why her and her best friend broke up. It's not what I usually look for in contemporary, to the point where it wasn't just fluffy, which is what I'm going to be honest with you, if I'm going for a contemporary read, I usually want just a bit of fluff. But this one was a bit like Jenny Han in the respect that it had a lot more to it than just fluff. And I think I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. I will look more into this author, but I'm not sure this novel is for me, but I have had a lot of people say there's novels by this author that are better than this one. So I will look into that, but it was a really nice story. It was very honest in many respects, but it works well in the telling of these stories and the telling of Annabelle's story, and I did enjoy it. I read it in like 2 days, so there you go. But the next standalone I read was Lena Dunham's book, Not That Kind of Girl. A young woman tells us what she's learned. Right, I know this book got so much controversy and people started hating Lena Dunham after it came out. A friend of mine told me to read this. She has got really bad OCD, which is a form of anxiety, and that's obviously I have anxiety. So I wanted to read this for that. And also, I've never watched Girls. I know nothing about Lena Dunham, apart from she was in the Bad Blood music video. But I thought this was really good. She's very selfish, and I think you have to get past that. Go into this book knowing she's a very selfish human being and you'll have no problems with it. I enjoyed it. I'm not saying I'd read more of her autobiographies, but you don't need to because I now know her life story. It was very honest. I can see why all the controversy came up with her sister and the Pebble thing. If you're a fan of Lena Dunham, I'd suggest reading it. If you're not a fan of Lena Dunham, proceed with caution, because I read it because of the anxiety prospects, but there's a lot more to it than that. It's not just a book about her anxiety. Her life was very interesting, and it's very interesting to see how this young woman became one of the most famous sitcom writers in America. And she's a woman, and I highly respect that. I don't know enough about the controversy to comment on it, so I'm just going to sort of graze over it. Fire alarm. The next book I read, a book I started over Easter and didn't finish, and it's by Daniel Waters and it's called Generation Dead. It wasn't quite the stereotypical teen YA romance supernatural thing, it was a bit more to it than that. It is the first book in a trilogy. I own the other 2 and I will continue with the series, but I didn't really enjoy this book. I liked it, but I'm not saying I'd read the other 2 if I didn't already own them. Because I already own them, I'm going to read them, I'm not going to give them away. It touched on a lot of things like racism, which is really interesting to read about in this respect, because we take away that it's about race and add in, this case, dead kids who are rising again. You get to look at it in a more drawn out way, so you're looking in, because it's obviously something you've never experienced, but you still get the feeling of racism out of it. And it was really interesting seeing how this really brave girl went up against her friends, at some points her family, to do what she thinks is right, and I think it was a really interesting novel and I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the plot twist at the end. I think I gave it 2 out of 5 stars, maybe 3, but I will be continuing with the series. Seagulls now. The next 3 books I read were easily my favourite 3 books of the month, and they were also easily 3 of my favourite books of the year. I loved this series, and it's The Winners Curse trilogy. Boy, am I glad I waited till they were all out. This series is one of the best things I've read. I loved everything about it. I loved it was female orientated, which a lot of why that I read is, but this female wasn't just like a Katniss. She wasn't good with weapons, but she was good with strategy, and it was so nice to have a woman who wasn't just with male attributes, like stereotypical male attributes like fighting. Obviously women can do that as well, but it was nice to see the other side of the sex. But in the first book you meet Arian, who's her slave who she buys, and then I was a bit worried about that. I was a bit worried about the slave, like, slave master sort of thing. Last time I read a book like that it was 50 Shades of Grey and I didn't get on with it. But this dealt with it really well, and you're actually, honestly, you're never really sure who has the power. And that's just in the first book. And then it unravels, and their relationship is constantly, they both use common sense. Neither of them were whitewashed away into thinking anything just for love. The love was nicely built, I believed it. It wasn't just they saw each other across a crowded room, she had to buy him. It was a lot more complicated than that, and I actually believed it. There was no insta-love. I cannot tell you my relief that there was no insta-love. I hate that. If you're looking for a fantasy series that's really easy reading for the summer, I would recommend this series wholeheartedly. I read 6 books, and before you were like, that's not bad, I read these 6 in the past 10 days, so yeah. I'm actually quite happy with it, all in all, because I haven't been reading as much as I should have been, so I will see you all with a new video very, very soon. Goodbye! Bye! Bye!